You were taught to sell your time, as if exhaustion was a virtue. But every hour you trade away is a fragment of your biological life. You will never recover. The system was never designed to reward freedom. It rewards the obedient extraction. Welcome to the 1,000-hour protocol. You were taught to optimize every hour as if productivity was the highest human virtue. But while you optimized output, your biological life was quietly disappearing. Degrees, certifications, career milestones, you collected them like shields, hoping they would protect you from economic uncertainty. But inside the modern system, you became a perfectly standardized component, a biological processor inside an industrial machine. This is the illusion. The equation was never designed for you to win. When you exchange time for fiat currency, you enter a linear equation that ends in biological exhaustion. The market worships scarcity, yet your rarest resource is the very thing you were taught to liquidate. Time, scarcity, is the hook that keeps millions of people trapped inside the cycle of endless labor, always believing the next promotion will finally buy your freedom, but freedom cannot be purchased through the labor that imprisons you. Every tick of the clock is a withdrawal from your biological bank account, a debt that can never truly be repaid. No salary is high enough to buy back lost time. The structure standardized your potential, your creativity, your energy, your uniqueness, compressed into predictable units of economic output. Welcome to the shadow ledger, a hidden system where human time became the cheapest fuel on Earth. They do not want loyalty, they want your most productive years. Every coin that enters their pocket costs a fragment of someone else's existence. It is not trade, it is extraction. Most people never question the exchange itself. The few who awaken never see work the same way again. The extraction grid is everywhere. Invisible, efficient, absolute. Look around. Entire cities were engineered to harvest human attention and biological energy. Corporate towers, office pods, endless fluorescent corridors, modern temples, built for extraction. Your brain is rented at a discount to increase the equity of people. You will likely never meet. These corporations are not simply businesses. They became energetic grids designed to absorb human ambition and convert it into concentrated capital. The harder you work, the stronger. Their structure grows. Your ambition became the fuel that keeps the machine alive. Even success does not free you. A luxury pod is still a pod. The golden thread remains attached. This grid maps every skill, every talent, every productive hour, redirecting the surplus toward the sovereign structures. At the top, most people believe effort alone can defeat the system. But effort without structure only feeds the grid faster. The elite understand something different. Ownership is leverage. Infrastructure is power, and systems outlive labor. This is why they do not chase hours. They build environments where millions of hours flow automatically into structures they control. The extraction grid does not require cruelty, only participation. And most people participate willingly because the cage was redesigned to feel comfortable. Predictable salaries, predictable routines, predictable survival, but predictability is not freedom. It is managed dependency. Very few people ever realize the grid was never designed to free them, only to optimize extraction more efficiently. True power is found in the architecture, not the labor. Most people spend their lives selling fragments of biological time. The sovereign elite build systems that absorb human effort automatically. This is the 1,000-hour protocol, a structure where ownership multiplies power. Every system you build either consumes your life or protects it. Most people never escape the transaction loop. Wake up, commute, produce, consume, repeat. A perfectly optimized cycle for controlled exhaustion. But the architects operate differently. They understand that true wealth is not money. It is autonomous value flow, a structure capable of generating value without requiring constant biological sacrifice. The system trained you to believe effort was the highest virtue. But effort alone creates dependency. Leverage creates sovereignty. The moment your survival depends entirely on your labor, you become vulnerable to extraction. This is why ownership matters, not symbolic ownership, real ownership. Infrastructure and distribution, systems, assets, and containers that continue producing value while you sleep. The labor class focuses on activity. The sovereign class focuses on architecture. One trades hours, the other controls flow. This is the hidden divide between survival and sovereignty. Most people were taught to chase income. Very few were taught to build systems. And the difference changes everything. Every hour you spend inside someone else's structure strengthens their architecture more than your own. The extraction grid does not fear workers. It fears independent systems. Because independent systems break dependency. And dependency is the foundation of institutional control. This is why the modern world keeps people distracted, too exhausted to think, too stimulated to reflect, too dependent to disconnect. The system survives by keeping human beings inside perpetual motion, never still enough to recognize the structure surrounding them. Most people will spend decades optimizing survival without ever questioning the structure itself. But the few who awaken begin designing differently. They stop asking, how do I work harder? And begin asking, how do I build leverage? That question changes the trajectory of an entire life. The system is beginning to crack, not because it became weaker, but because too many people are starting to see it clearly. The illusion depended on unconscious participation, but awareness changes the equation. For decades, the extraction grid operated invisibly, hidden behind comfort, convenience, predictable routines. But now, the architecture is becoming visible. People are beginning to realize that efficiency was never meant to create freedom. Only optimization, a faster machine, a cleaner cage, a more profitable dependency. The modern system does not collapse dramatically. It erodes slowly. Attention spans shorten. Communities dissolve. Meaning disappears. And human beings become disconnected from themselves. This is why so many people feel exhausted without understanding why. Their biological systems were never designed for constant stimulation or permanent acceleration. The nervous system cannot distinguish between digital urgency and physical survival threats. So the body remains trapped inside perpetual stress cycles, always reacting, never recovering. This is not evolution. It is overload. The extraction grid requires permanent engagement, infinite scrolling, infinite updates, infinite comparison. a civilization, trapped inside psychological motion, too distracted to reflect, too fragmented to focus, too exhausted to disconnect. And yet, something is changing. More people are beginning to withdraw their attention from the machine. They are questioning the architecture itself, not merely the symptoms. This is the dangerous stage. Because once human beings recognize the cage, they stop decorating it. A luxury pod is still a pod. A premium subscription is still dependency. A higher salary, inside the same system, is still controlled participation. The extraction grid survives through perception. The moment perception changes, the structure begins to weaken. Because systems of control require belief, and belief can collapse overnight. Most people will continue defending the machine because dependency feels safer than uncertainty. But the few who awaken begin reclaiming their biological autonomy, their focus, their attention, their time. And once that process begins, the system can no longer fully absorb them. The transition begins the moment you stop identifying as a worker and begin thinking. Like an architect, most people inherit survival patterns without ever questioning where they lead. Wake up, consume, react, repeat. A civilization running inherited scripts, but sovereignty requires interruption. The ability to step outside the loop long enough to examine it clearly. Because once you see how the architecture operates, you begin rebuilding yourself differently. You stop optimizing for external validation and begin optimizing for sovereignty. Your attention becomes more valuable than entertainment. Your energy becomes more valuable than appearance. Your time becomes more valuable than status. This is the beginning of biological sovereignty. Not escaping society, but escaping unconscious dependency. Most people were conditioned to consume systems. Very few learned to construct them. That is the dividing line between participation and ownership. The sovereign mind no longer chases visibility and begins building infrastructure, quietly, deliberately, without permission. Because true leverage rarely appears dramatic while it is being built. A tree grows silently. So does sovereignty. This is why the modern world fears stillness. Stillness creates observation. Observation creates awareness. And awareness breaks automatic behavior. The extraction grid depends on distraction, because distracted people rarely build independently. They remain reactive, predictable, easy to absorb. But the moment a human being reclaims attention, the entire equation changes. Now the system must compete for the very focus it once extracted freely. This is why independent creators, small sovereign systems, and decentralized structures matter more than ever. They weaken dependency, they restore ownership, and ownership changes human behavior. People begin thinking long-term. They become harder to manipulate, harder to exhaust, harder to control. This is where the sovereign transition begins, not externally, internally. A reorganization of values, of attention, of identity. Most people will never reach this stage because the system trained them to fear uncertainty more than dependency. But the few who awaken begin constructing lives that no longer require constant extraction. And once that happens, the architecture of control begins to weaken. The final stage is not escape. It is authorship,
Build structures that
the
absorb
ability
the time of the market.
to
Let your
consciously
system
design
solve problems for
the
thousands
architecture
while
of
you
your own
focus on the
existence.
next level.
Most people inherit systems. Very few ever build their own. But the moment you reclaim attention, everything begins to change, because attention is the foundation of all sovereignty.
Ownership
Where
is the
attention
key.
flows,
Ownership of the
energy
code, the
follows.
process, and
And where
intellectual
energy
property
flows,
that the masses will
structures
eventually
emerge.
rely upon.
This is why the modern world fights so aggressively for human focus. Attention became the most valuable resource in the modern world. More valuable than oil, more valuable than labor, more valuable than currency, because whoever controls attention controls behavior, and whoever controls behavior controls civilization. But the sovereign individual withdraws attention from artificial urgency, from endless stimulation, from engineered distraction, from algorithmic dependency. And inside that silence, something extraordinary happens. Clarity returns, thought deepens, identity stabilizes. For the first time, the individual begins operating from conscious intention instead of programmed reaction. This is the rebirth of authorship, the transition from consumer to creator, from participant to architect. Most people will never make this shift, because building sovereignty requires uncertainty, responsibility, patience, long-term thinking, and the modern system trained human beings to avoid all four. But the few who awaken begin constructing systems that align with their values, their time, their energy, their biological life. This is why small sovereign systems matter so much. Independent creators, independent infrastructure, independent communities, independent thought. Every sovereign structure weakens centralized extraction. Every conscious human being reduces institutional control. And slowly, the architecture begins changing. Not through revolution, but through withdrawal. Attention withdrawal, dependency withdrawal, psychological withdrawal. The extraction machine cannot survive forever without participation. Participation collapses. The moment awareness spreads, most people will continue defending the system, because dependency feels safer than freedom. But freedom was never supposed to feel comfortable, only real. The sovereign path is quieter, slower, less visible, but infinitely more alive. Because at the end of existence, your life will not be measured by productivity metrics, or institutional approval, or financial status. It will be measured by how consciously you live, by how much of your attention truly belonged to you, and by whether you built a life aligned with your own architecture. The future belongs to those who reclaim authorship, to those who stop reacting and begin designing, to those who understand that sovereignty begins internally. If this vision resonates with you, stay connected to Compound Core. The age of the sovereign architect has already begun.